Hi there, you're listening to the Steve Perryman podcast with my normal partners in crime, Howard and Tom, bringing with them their opinions of the latest events at our beloved Tottenham Hotspur. So welcome, Tom, welcome, Howard.
Good evening.
Valentines Day, it'll all be over by the time we put this out tomorrow, but are you having a good Valentine's Day?
I was. Oh well, I was. We don't normally.
You're younger, Tom. So it's more on your plate.
Yeah, we don't normally do anything for it, but I did nip out this afternoon to grab some flowers from the garage. By the time they'd got to like the half price end of the day, and there were lots of other blokes doing the same thing, so I was in good company.
Well done. What about you, Howard?
I went to the flower shop on Saturday and ordered for them to be delivered here this morning, which they weren't. I had to go pick them up, but anyway, we got them. She got them.
Well done. So you're clear.
Just about.
Yeah, you're clear of extra problems. If anyone remembers this, I've been moved in this house now for about 15 months, I suppose. And so last year was my first Valentine's Day with neighbours. Suffice to say, where I used to live, there was a long driveway, and I wasn't aware of deliveries to other houses left and right of me. But in this new place, I had to actually phone the chap, great neighbours, Heidi and Andy. I had to phone him to say, listen, no more deliveries. That's 6 today. It's enough. You're now putting me under extreme pressure. Now, they're having a lot of work done in their house and probably a hell of a new kitchen. So I think all his money has gone on the new kitchen rather than Valentine's Day chocolates, etc., etc. So, chaps, the last 2 games, I tried to match that up with giving presents away, where we certainly give some points away. You both were present at the games against Southampton and Wolves. Any comments in general? We don't normally necessarily have to talk about each game as it comes, but any general comments from you, Howard, first?
I think I've said many, many times that we need to buy players who are men, who are going to compete, you're going to get stuck in. And it seems to me we buy whichever player happens to be available at the time, irrespective. I'm very, very, very frustrated with that. Dyer, we've clearly missed him. So one statistic that the 6 games we played without him, we conceded 7 goals or more. And with him, the 6 games he's played, we have clean sheets. Yeah. It can't just be coincidence. And also, sure. I think that we haven't yet seen Romero partnering Dyer.
Yeah,
they give you two men who at least understand the game a bit.
Yeah. Romero is starting to look a decent player, isn't he, within the defeats?
Yeah.
And of course, it's a bit too early for the other 2, the brand new 2 players, the Swedish lad and is he from Uruguay, the other chap?
Bentancur's Uruguayan, yeah.
Yeah. So we'll give them a bit more breathing space. But, I mean, promising in a way, I suppose. How about you, Tom? What you're looking at?
So I sit in the northeast corner. So I had a lovely view of every single one of the goals that was conceded. Well, the last 2 against Southampton and the 2 against Wolves. I mean, all of which were just catastrophic, really, in terms of the way we presented them with the opportunity to score quite simply against us. And then the first Southampton goal as well at the other end was a catalogue of errors between Ben Davies and Højbjerg not really getting involved where he should have been, in my opinion. Just really disappointing. I think after the Brentford game, the Brighton game, I think we kind of all felt that the team played well and everyone looked like they knew what role they had and what we expected of them. And then we go into what we think are two relatively winnable home games to get right back up into the top four reckoning. And we've just thrown that chance away, it feels like. And you know, it's frustrating as well seeing some of the tactics as well. I mean, the best we played this season under Conte have been the 3-5-2s against Liverpool, Leicester, and whenever we just play with the two in the midfield, like we have these last couple of games, we just look overrun. So it's disappointing.
Well, particularly disappointed. I haven't been live at the games, so bear that in mind. And the camera doesn't always catch the important parts that I would be looking for. Of course, it shows the goals and the build up to the goals and replays and stuff like that. But I am wondering about the goalkeeper with the back line, whether it's a back three or a back four or sometimes a back five. But I wonder how much communication is going on between Hugo and the last line of defenders. Perhaps I was extremely lucky to play with people like Pat Jennings and Ray Clements, who absolutely dominated you in that box, in that penalty box. That penalty box was his. And I think there's too many slashes at the ball that are not successful at clearing it, that go up in the air or come back and hurt us in some way, when it feels to me either the goalkeeper is not giving instructions or warnings or information, or those players are not listening to the instructions. And whichever of those cases apply, it's not really good enough, is it? Because we're too easy to score against. And so what I'm saying about that communication, if we're having a decent day, it doesn't get shown up. If we're having a nervous day defensively, and I suggest against Southampton, the first 5 minutes, it was obvious that there was mistakes going to happen. And that's where I think the goalkeeper, whether he's a captain or not, doesn't matter to me. The goalkeeper is the captain of that box. And therefore, the information, the warnings, the guidance, telling a player that steady, meaning you don't have to slash at the ball and therefore make a possible mistake, comes to the forefront. So that disappointed me a bit. And what I've noticed in the two games, sorry to sort of be leading this, chaps, but in the two games, it looks to me like our two opponents that are not top level opponents, they're not Man City, they're not Chelsea, they're not whoever. Of course, they're good and you've got to pay respect to the opponents. But the midfield players of those teams are all-round midfielders. If they need to keep it, they can keep it. If they need to defend, get back and clear their lines, they do that. If they need to run on beyond, they can do that. If they want to take free kicks and corners, they can do that. But it's as if other teams have all-round midfielders and we have a so-called specialist defensive midfielder or a specialist attacking midfielder. And when they're called in to do the other bit of work, as you need an 11-man squad on that field to be all playing to the same tune, that we've got players that can't handle the ball or can't feed the through pass or can't defend or can't get forward and beyond. So I sort of wonder about our as Howard mentioned before, he wanted more men. That's a certainty. You've got to have men to compete. What was it Conte said? He wants players that kill. Well, that's about right. Over my dead body, are you going to get that ball in the net? So particularly disappointing, but who knows? Who knows? We can certainly improve. I think that's where Conte is leading us to. He's asking for a bit of reality, and a bit of patience. Is he fair to ask that, Howard?
Sure. I mean, he's not been there long enough to not be given that benefit of the doubt. And the squad he inherited, you can already see the ones he wants to get rid of as they've gone out on loan. But of course, they come back if they don't do well enough, don't they?
Yes, they do. They do, which gives us a bigger problem.
Yeah.
How have you got the funds then to go and spend elsewhere? And of course, hopefully make better decisions on players that are coming in. So until you get rid of the ones that you don't want anymore, that can lead to a problem. So what about you, Tom?
Yeah,
reality time.
Yeah, I mean, Conte is one of the best managers in the world. We're obviously lucky to have attracted him and to have him. I just wonder if the job is bigger than he ever realised it would have been before he came in. And when you look at our recruitment over the last few years, yeah, when you think about the full-backs or wing-backs we used to have in Rose and Walker, we've just downgraded so much in terms of what we have on those flanks now compared to what they used to offer. Similarly, we've signed, I think Romero is probably one of the only real kind of come in first team ready, come in and make a position your own type signings we've made in such a long time. And so you do start looking at the recruitment and what Conte's kind of left with in terms of a squad to work with. So, he's been here 5 minutes in the grand scheme of things. I think it was always going to be this summer that was going to be when he was going to start putting his mark on the squad. You kind of hope he's satisfied with what happened in January in terms of the transfer market. You assume that there's probably more he wanted to do. But yeah, I mean, it's disappointing where we are now. I don't think at this rate we're going to get the top four. And what that means for some of our best players and for Conte himself, who knows? But and
the players we can attract.
Yeah, absolutely.
If we're not in that Champions League,
there's a rumor going around talking of loan players that Gareth Bale's coming back.
Yeah, I've heard that he signed a pre-contract agreement. That's.
Are you happy with that one, chaps? Are you happy?
Yeah. Well, I'd love to see him back again because I feel like we were kind of robbed of seeing him. When he was back, because we couldn't go to the stadium and see him play. Mourinho didn't play him much anyway. So, but he showed, when you think about the amount of goals he actually scored in that period of time, even though he didn't play all that often, compared to the likes of Lo Celso, who's offered one Premier League goal in his entire Spurs career. Anyone who can provide that guaranteed return, plus just to see him again in the flesh for a season would be great.
Yeah. And the supporters' reaction, you're both live there at the games. The supporters' reaction to the team or to mistakes, passing mistakes, for instance, or a missed tackle or whatever, a slashed clearance. Are they being too harsh on the team or is it understandable, Howard?
Well, I mean, you got one end of the scale, you got Royal Emerson, whatever his name is, who just looks like he hasn't got a clue at all.
He's struggling.
He's really struggling. And instead of him, you got Doherty, which I don't think he's up to much. Well, he's doing a bit better than he was.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Trippier, who we practically gave away, he scored 2 direct free kicks in his first week at Newcastle.
Yeah.
No question they're going to stay up. He'll be a decent right back, and we'll have Emerson all over.
Yeah. And you wonder why a player like Trippier leaves us.
He spoke about that, didn't he?
Has he? I haven't seen that.
Yeah, but he says it's all down to Daniel.
Okay.
I don't know who was with him when he was at.
Did they offer him out somewhere? Did they offer him out in a deal and then it didn't happen and therefore he decided, okay, you want me out? I'll go and find myself.
It could be that way, but I've got a sneaking suspicion it wasn't. It was Daniel saying we got not enough fullbacks, so you haven't got much of a future here. So,
but he was
interested.
He was battling with Serge Aurier, wasn't he, for the right back spot? But Trippier's last season, he definitely didn't hit the heights that he had done, and he had some. There was definitely I remember the FA Cup game away at Palace, where he missed a penalty, and he was just generally. It just seemed like he'd kind of reached a point of no return because but But it was one bad season. I think he'd shown enough in the years before with us that he was a worthy right-sided player.
Sure. And our defensive problems, any solutions can you see from what we've already got? Of course, we got a chance of getting Dyer fit. Skip, what's happened to Skip? Is he injured as well?
He has been, yeah. I think we definitely miss him. You were talking earlier about midfielders who can do everything. Like having midfielders who can do all aspects of the game. I think Skip's, he's not a goal scoring midfielder, but he's certainly one who can drive us forward a bit more than I think Winks does, while still being very solid in his defensive covering as well. So I think we've definitely missed him.
I don't like to be a knocker of Winks, but Sunday he was awful.
Yeah, he didn't look good, did he?
No.
Didn't look good.
It felt like he turned a corner a bit recently, but
it did, didn't it? Yeah.
Last couple of games, not that anyone else has covered themselves in glory, but it's just the individual mistakes and some of the passing that players playing each other into trouble. It was, and CB mentioned about the crowd's reaction, and I hate hearing booing and whatnot, and I get that people are entitled if they pay their money to make their feelings known. But I think during the first half of both games, there was the players some of the players almost gave the boo boys ammo on a plate with some of the passing, some of the errors that were being made, which ended up just kind of bringing the pressure from the opposition piled onto us at the very early stages in the game, which then gets the crowd antsy and gets the atmosphere potentially toxic before we've really got going.
There's obviously a lack of confidence, isn't there,
yes.
With regard to the current results, and I think Conte answered that by saying, "That's our job. That's our job." And actually, you need to be a man to step up when you're getting criticised. I got asked the other day about a famous game where I ended up scoring a half volley from the edge of the box, and later on in that game, I stooped, or in better words, I was stupid to put my head low into a challenge and got my eye kicked by Liam Brady. I don't think he actually meant it. He was going for the ball. And I was listening on the radio, and there was a discussion on about injuries, and it wasn't professional injuries. I think these were comedians talking about it. And then one comedian came out with a very interesting line. He said he remembers a quote from a very famous American football coach that said he didn't expect his players to play injured. They expected them to play hurt. So over the years, people have said to me, "Why did you stay on in that game? Your face, you look more like a boxer than a footballer. Why did you stay on?" Well, a big fat eye does not stop you running around. It does not stop you doing your job. It does not stop you putting your foot in. This is against Arsenal, by the way. So I want to be on that pitch, don't I? So it was a sort of an answer to me for why I stayed on, not that I needed it. But we're also talking about men. Actually, at the end of scoring the goal from the corner, Mike England header, back to the edge of the box, half volley, high into the net. If you watch the film closely, I end up putting two fingers up. And everyone thinks that was to the Arsenal supporters. No, it was to the West Stand Knowles that were giving me a rough time. Well, okay, I didn't answer that criticism like that every time. If I had done, it would have been worth giving me some abuse for it. But you've got to rise above what they're thinking about you or proving them wrong. And that's the only way you can do it. You can't go into a slump and go quiet. Surely you can't. So, but that for me was a very interesting quote.
Yeah, I think that's I guess what you're talking about, having players now, the ones who can the ones who can respond positively to that kind of criticism and want to show them show them that they're better than that, and
that's your fight back.
Yeah.
And
that's your fight back. Whether it's to the opponent that's giving you the run around, you've got to fight him back. If it's the crowd that are making it difficult for you because they're affecting your confidence, you've got to step through it and drive on. And that's the way it is. You've got to fight against the manager that's not picking you. Or Sessegnon, for instance. Sessegnon got pulled off very early, some would say. I actually couldn't quite understand why he was selected in the first place, as per what I've seen. And remember, I'm not live at the game, so I'm not seeing 100% of it. But you've got to fight your corner to get yourself back into it. You don't slink away in a corner and cry. You've got to stand up and be counted. And when the manager or the crowd or the opponent see that, they think, okay, I've got somebody here. We've now got a game on. So yeah. Okay, enough of the 6 wasted points. Howard, do you want to say something about the Y word that's coming into everyone's notice these days?
Yep. Firstly, languages change. Words evolve. For example, awful in Old English, or referred to fear, terror, or dread. This later morphed into a solemn or reverential wonder, and awful and awesome were synonymous with awe-inspiring. Later, awful took on a solely negative connotation, and the word found its modern-day usage to mean extremely bad. Awesome, meanwhile, evolved in the opposite way, probably in the mid-1900s, and came to mean extremely good. Cute, originally the word was acute, meaning sharp, hence don't get cute with me, but mostly it's used as an adjective to mean something sweet, little, and sweet. Of course, if the Y word is directed at someone in a horrible tone, it is clearly meant in a derogative way. However, over the past 35, 40 years, the Y word has become synonymous with being a Spurs fan. This gives me the opportunity to discuss why the Y word is bad historically and how it came about to become something quite different. The way it's evolved from being a Spurs supporter, I think, is a good thing. To me personally, and I'm of course Jewish, and very much a Spurs supporter. Back in the mid-90s, I was opening a brand new bookshop in Guildford in Surrey. It was due to open on the Tuesday morning. On the Saturday prior to the opening, I was obviously in the shop running up and down aisles with a million things on my mind. Because the shop wasn't actually open, the staff were wearing their own personal casual clothing. These included a security guard, and he arrived for a walk, and as he walked past me, he said, "Morning, Gov." Later, I was about to display some books on a table, and I realised that I'd be better off doing them in a different way, which meant I needed to move the table. I went to get the security guard to help me. He was having a cup of tea in the staff room, and I opened the door and was about to say, "Please come and give me a hand," when I saw that he'd taken off his jacket and underneath was an Arsenal shirt. My natural reaction was to reel back in horror. I said, "I knew I didn't like you." For a second, the guy looked really concerned, and then he laughed, and I said, "When you finish your tea, come and give me a hand." A bit later, I'm still running up and down the aisles and in my own head, and I passed the guard, and as I did, he said, "You a Yido then?" I stopped, frozen to the spot. And then it dawned on me, he meant that I was a Spurs supporter, and that was when I realised that the meaning of the Y word had evolved. For me, that all started with a match at Stamford Bridge, and the Chelsea supporters started to hiss like the gas chambers. It was shocking, absolutely shocking. The following week, we went to a home game, and a group of Spurs supporters had somehow made contact with a lot of other Spurs supporters and draped the flag of Israel over the East Stand balcony. Of course, we realised not everyone was Jewish, but the Spurs supporters were all claiming the Y word. All commendation to the Spurs supporters for having done this in the first place, but now it served its purpose. Sadly, anti-Semitism is rife again, so I feel it could become a negative again. As Spurs have stated this week, it's time to move on. And I agree with the club, it is time to move on.
Well done, Howard. Well done. You're agreeing with the club.
It had to happen sometime.
Yeah. Well done. Well done. Tom, any comment as a non-Jewish Spurs supporter?
Yeah, I mean, as obviously, I feel totally unqualified to kind of pass too much comment on it. As you say, I'm not Jewish. However, I've grown up identifying the word with a feeling of camaraderie, positivity towards fellow fans and Spurs. Yeah, it becomes part of our chants, part of what you call someone who's had a good game, that kind of thing. So it was only when I got a bit older that I kind of more understood the historical context and what it meant. And I guess that's always been in the back of my mind as something I should maybe feel a bit more uncomfortable about. And you know, I agree with Howard that it's given the kind of current climate, the way things have developed, the way, you know, if the club says it's time to move on, and if Jewish Spurs fans think it's time to move on, then it is time to move on, no question. I just think what was quite disappointing yesterday was Sky Sports did a report which just seemed to kind of ignore all the history and the nuances a bit behind the use of it. I mean, if I've just got the quote here, Sky Sports news reporter Mark McAdam was at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium and said, clearly the statement that came out on Thursday from the football club asking for the fans to stop using that word has fallen on deaf ears. And within 3 minutes here, I want to be talking about the football and not about an anti-Semitic chant that the club has very kindly asked its fans to stop saying. And I just kind of think that sums up it's very difficult to make things black and white here, but it seems to me that just misses the point entirely of why the fans have sung it. Doesn't take into account what prompted fans to sing it in the first place, and to expect it to just switch off like that because they've been asked to, and then to kind of call the fans, you know, anti-Semitic, singing anti-Semitic chant, and it's horrible that they were doing that because they were asked not to. Just seems to kind of just sums up that there's so much more to this than there is necessarily on the surface to someone who doesn't know about the history, doesn't understand why the word was embraced in this way. I hope that's kind of fair enough, Howard, but that's where I kind of seem to view it as from my position.
I relate back to the needing men, and when Howard said about Stamford Bridge and the horror of those noises, our supporters' way of standing up for themselves was to then take the word on board and use it back against them. So I can't criticize that. I can't criticize. They were standing their ground for us, our identity. So, okay, that's as far as I'll go because I'm not Jewish, and but I'm listening to someone like Howard, and if Howard says it's time to move on, I can't disagree with that. So another talking point was the Martinelli red card. Any comments? I'll comment first. I'll comment first. I loved it. I loved the referee giving 2 yellow cards for a player that tried to stop a throw-in. How's that ever been allowed? And then because he played on, the lad then decided to foul the chap. If the referee decided that foul was worth a yellow card, then it was worth 2 yellow cards. I thought it was fine.
100%.
Not because he's Arsenal, not because if it was our player, I'd say you're stupid. Why did you do that?
I'd agree. You know, you kind of. Someone was saying to me the other day, yeah, but the whole point of the first yellow card is to give him a warning, and he didn't get that warning as a result of it happening in that same phase of play. It's like, just no, not true. You know, you've done a yellow card offence. Player's gone on. The referee has signalled he's playing an advantage, which surely would tell you that you're at risk of getting a yellow card for what you've just done. You don't then just go and chop him down again without fear of
absolutely.
Reprisal.
Howard, anything?
Good refereeing.
Sort of covered it, but
I think it's the right thing to do, whoever it was. But the fact that it was then
helps. Yeah. I want to see referees lay the law down.
Yeah.
I despise the ball goes out of play in this position, and then whoever it is, a Tottenham player or whoever, uses that position to then start his run up to then launch the ball down the line. So there's about 10, 15 meters difference between that spot. As soon as a referee lets the first player get away with that, he loses a bit of control. Surely he does. Yeah. So I want to see referees tighten up.
Do you know what, honestly, you know when a player goes down and he grabs the ball with his hands to make the ref's decision for him, that should be a straight red card, I think, because the more it gets, the more I swear players are doing it more and more these days.
Yeah.
And it's getting to a point where they're kind of psychologically making the referee make a decision by doing that. And you're seeing it happen with some pretty 50-50 challenges at the moment. And the ref just gives the free kick because that's the easier decision to give in that place. But yeah, I hate that.
And another pet hate of mine, nothing to do with referees, by the way, when a player scores a goal, he runs to the corner flag and slides on his knees. If you're looking to buy an injury, keep doing that. Trust me, keep doing that. And I heard of a player the other day, maybe I've said this before, Ian Wright owned up that when he had a bit of a problem with Harry Redknapp, when Harry signed him at West Ham, he got injured celebrating in that style and tweaked his knee. And Harry accused him of not wanting to be fit for the next game. That's the first time I've ever heard of a player owning up to getting injured by going on his knees. Would I find that player, if he wasn't available next game, if he went on his knees? Ridiculous. So Howard mentioned the word cute. My youngest one went to the new stadium the other day, unfortunately for her, for the Wolves game. And she's cute. I got to tell you, she's cute. So, bad debut for her in the new stadium, but perhaps if she goes again, she'll help us get a better result. So we are Man City next, with Leeds to follow after that. I don't really introduce a guest way before he comes on, but that Leeds, when we talk about Leeds, I'm going to invite a chap called Paul Trevelyan. You people out there might know him through the cartoon style drawings he does. Famous for that. They get sold for a lot of money. And he used to do quite a famous piece in the Sunday People every week of top sports stars. And say, for instance, the drawing would be about Jack Nicklaus, and his nickname was the Bear. You would see the bear within the drawing. It's quite amazing how he did it. But Paul Trevelyan is a Spurs fan, and he's a artist of some repute. And he was responsible, this is where Leeds comes in, for leading Leeds into the new era of trying to make themselves popular, which was some job. And it started in the 6th round of the Cup against Tottenham at Leeds in March 1972. We lost 2-1. John Pratt scored, put us in front, and then they come back and beat us 2-1. So we could have killed all the celebrity, all the showbiz, all the fanfare that this man encouraged Leeds to build up with sock ties and sock numbers and names on the back of their tracksuit tops, and a warm-up that hadn't been done before like they do today. So Paul Trevelyan is going to be very interesting to listen to. So I wish our troops the very best of luck against Man City next week. For some reason, we seem to do well against Man City. Let's keep our fingers crossed on that one. Let's hope we get defensive players back fit. And thank you very much for listening. And sorry about the loss of points. But Howard, thank you for all your comments.
Pleasure.
Much appreciated on your Y word. And Tom, also thank you for your help. And we'll regroup next time. Thanks for listening. Come on, you Spurs.